Everyone, time to do another comparison this time around between two new iPhones, I guess. The iPhone 12 Pro is the latest iPhone, but the iPhone SE2 also just came out. And this is actually the cheapest iPhone you can pick up from Apple right now versus one of the more expensive iPhones. The most expensive iPhone you could pick up right now, but eventually the 11 Pro Max will be, or the 12 Pro Max will be a little bit more expensive. So let's go ahead and see how both of these things compare. Now the iPhone SE2 costs $399. This phone costs $999. I will find the cheapest ones on Amazon. Link them down in the description below. You can get them from there, help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can see pretty much the 12 Pro is the bigger phone in every dimension. It's wider, it's, longer in length, and I don't really think there's a problem with that. I think people like a smaller phone, people like a bigger phone, they can choose what they want. Now, the iPhone SE2 has that 4.7-inch panel on the front, and this is definitely a dated design. I hate to say it, the panel itself is actually not that bad. Like, it's actually a pretty, current panel for the most part. It's not ugly, it gets the job done. But like I've said before, and I'll say it again, the biggest problem for this specific panel would definitely be the amount of bezel on the side. And I think that's one thing that doesn't hurt it, it doesn't help it. It's just one of those things that people are used to because this is a $399 phone. If you want a better looking phone, get the iPhone XR. But this thing is still a pretty good phone when it comes down to it, in my opinion, in terms of the panel. Now, the iPhone 12 Pro, on the other hand, has that 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel. And this is a very, very good panel, in my opinion. It gets the job done times 10. They decrease the body bezel of it. It's now flat sides on it, and for sure the iPhone 12 Pro compared to the iPhone SE2 has a better looking panel. It just looks overall nicer, but it's still like a good panel. Like I would say even compared to the 11 Pro, there are very little differences, but between these two, the iPhone 12 Pro is definitely the better looking panel. In terms of the thickness between them, the iPhone 12 Pro, as you can see, is, I think, overall thicker than the iPhone SE2. The SE2 is a really thin device, and with the flat sides of the 12 Pro, it makes it feel a little bit thicker, even though maybe it is, maybe it's not. The iPhone SE2 feels a little bit thinner in the hand. And on the back, you can see triple camera setup on the iPhone 12 Pro with the LiDAR sensor, single wide-angle lens on the iPhone SE2, glass backs on both, but you do have the frosted glass back on the iPhone 12 Pro. On top of that, you have that MagSafe capability on the iPhone 12 Pro, which is really, really cool. The iPhone SE2 does not have that capability, but it still has wireless charging. Now, they both have IP certification and everything too, which is really cool, but in terms of the build quality, I'd probably give it to the 12 Pro. It feels and looks overall nicer. I think the SE2 still looks nice, you still have the glass back and everything like that, but the iPhone 12 Pro, in my opinion, feels a little bit nicer at the end of the day. So in terms of the outside, that pretty much covers it up. In terms of the software updates, it's pretty much fair to say that neither one of these phones are going to outlast the other one. The iPhone 12 Pro is probably going to be the one that lasts longer than the iPhone SE2, but we're probably talking within a year within each other. Because the iPhone SE2 has that year-old chip by now, the iPhone 12 Pro has that latest chip, it's just going to make sense that the 12 Pro is going to outlast the SE2, but I wouldn't even worry about that right now because the iPhone SE2 is still getting support for a very long time, and so is the 12 Pro. Like, we're talking 4 years from now, that's when we're going to start seeing some differences. But as of right now, both phones are still supported, same-day updates on both too, which is really, really important as well. So in terms of that, that pretty much covers up the software. Now let's go ahead and do a speed comparison between both these phones. Now the iPhone SE2 has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 GB of RAM. The iPhone 12 Pro has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which phone is the faster one between both of these. Okay, now let's go ahead and clear out on all the apps in the background, which I think are already clear. I'm going to go and increase the brightness of some of these things. So as you can see, all the apps are cleared out. Let's start loading up things like the App Store. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro is faster. iPhone SE2 a little bit behind, and this really wasn't a crazy big increase in performance, I think, but definitely the 12 Pro was noticeably faster. As always, I have a bunch of these third-party apps that we can go and get into. Let's do Netflix. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro is again faster. Let's do Quizlet. 3, 2, 1. And again, 12 Pro faster. iPhone SE2 a little bit behind it. Dropbox, I don't even think I have it. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. And you can see the 12 Pro was faster there. The iPhone SE2 a little bit behind it. Again, not a crazy big difference, but definitely a noticeable one, I would say. Let's go ahead and do Snake versus Blocks. 3, 2, 1. And again, the iPhone 12 Pro was the faster one. iPhone SE2 a little bit, slower. And I will definitely say the SE2 is holding its own down. It's definitely not an extremely slow device. And I'm actually really happy about the SE2. It's only a little bit slower. We can do Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. Now, both these phones are probably not going to be able to open it properly. I'm going to tell you right now. And I could be lying. So this one does have a little bit of a different layout. It just recently got an update, so I may have to start using a different app or something like that. We can do paper out 2, 3, 2, 1. And you can see here again, the iPhone 12 Pro was the faster one. iPhone SE2, a little bit behind, not a crazy big deal. In terms of performance though, they look about the same. I can't really tell. Maybe actually the iPhone SE2 looks a little bit smoother. And maybe that's because of the low resolution display, I don't know. Let's go and do Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And you can see again, it's looking like the iPhone 12 Pro is the faster one here. iPhone SE2, a little bit behind it. Not a ginormous deal. Like I wouldn't go from one phone to the other just based off this performance increase, but you can definitely see that I think the iPhone 12 Pro is noticeably faster every single time, and that's what I'm looking for. It being more consistently faster than not. Let's go and do the next one, which is Real Racing 3, 3, 2, 1. Now hopefully it opens up on both and it doesn't give me some random errors. And whenever that happens, that probably means there's going to be an error or maybe not. I don't know. And the iPhone 12 Pro is the faster one here. iPhone SE2 may be a little bit slower. We may actually not even get into it. Maybe it'll go into the downlink panel. I'm not really too sure. And the iPhone SE2 actually got into the game. So definitely when it comes down to that, and I guess these heavier intensive games, the iPhone 12 Pro will probably do much faster. We can go and end it off with stack. 3, 2, 1. And this specific app, the 12 Pro one as well. So I think honestly, like it kind of, this was a quick one. I will probably do a full one if you guys want to see it. I think this pretty much covers up everything I wanted to hit on. The speed comparison between these is not really that big of a difference if I can be completely honest. I think both these phones are very, very similar in terms of the performance. And I think day to day, if you're using one phone or the other, you're not going to want to go and upgrade from one phone to the other just based off this performance difference. The A13 chip is still extremely fast in my opinion, and there's still a lot of capability between these two phones. Now, as you can see, the RAM is actually much better on the iPhone 12 Pro. We did get a reboot here. Not a big deal, not a deal breaker, but it's still something to consider. But I would definitely say when it comes down to both these phones, the iPhone 12 Pro is the faster phone and the RAM management should theoretically be better. But I'll go ahead and give you guys a full speed comparison at some point. I don't know if one is going to drop. I have 30,000 videos to do, but hopefully sooner than later. So in terms of speed, that pretty much covers it up. Let's go and hit on the cameras. Now, like I said, triple camera setup on the iPhone 12 Pro, 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 12 megapixel telephoto lens with a LiDAR sensor. The iPhone SE2 has a single 12 megapixel wide angle lens. And definitely when it comes down to the UIs of both, you can see that they are almost identical. They have pretty much the same exact features. Both have portrait mode, different things like that. And I really think the biggest differences here are probably the, lack of lenses on the SE2, but also this one has a better front-facing camera for sure. The iPhone SE2 has an okay front-facing camera, but the one on the iPhone 12 Pro is far better in my opinion. Now, I actually did a bunch of camera comparisons between this phone and a lot of other phones when this phone first came out, and I pretty much saw at that time that this was a pretty good camera for the price tag and for what it was. But I think against a phone even like an iPhone 11 Pro at that time, it just didn't do quite as good because of the lack of lenses and because of that front-facing camera. I think with the iPhone SE2, had it had a better front-facing camera or, had it had a better back camera with more lenses, I think it would have sold more people. But again, I think this camera quality is great for a $399 phone right now, even compared to something like a OnePlus Nord. Galaxy S20 FE has a better camera, but this one, I think for the most part, is actually pretty good. The Pixel 4a, it kind of comes to mind too when I think about this type of camera. And with the iPhone 12 Pro, on the other hand, this is probably one of the best cameras Apple's ever made. They say that every year, but it's a really good camera. You have that telephoto lens, you can zoom in a bunch, you can zoom out a bunch too with that ultra-wide sensor, and that is something that's really, really awesome. Also, the front camera is awesome. The 4K at 60, which is really, really nice. But on top of that, you also have, the ability of using that LiDAR sensor. I don't know how many people are planning on using it, but definitely when it comes down to it, the iPhone 12 Pro has a far better camera, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, than the iPhone SE2. So when it comes down to that, that pretty much covers up the cameras. Now, ending it off with the battery life, I actually did a full battery comparison between both these phones, so I don't know when that's dropping, hopefully sooner than later, but I pretty much found out that the iPhone 12 Pro has a far better battery life than the iPhone SE2. I did standby time, gaming, videos, all that stuff. Pretty much the iPhone 12 Pro has a better battery life. I think it was probably like a 20 to 30% difference between these two. So whenever I make that full video, I'll drop it. But To kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you pick up the iPhone 12 Pro or should you go and pick up the iPhone SE 2? What I can tell you is that if you have an iPhone SE 2, I would recommend keeping it. There's no point in going for an iPhone 12 Pro. This phone just came out. And if you're on an extreme budget, I think an iPhone SE 2 is a good phone for the most part. There's really not that much to hate on it. The body is a little bit dated, but everything else about this phone is pretty decent. You're getting a good camera, you're getting a pretty good, performance, probably top tier performance still, software updates for a very long time, and it's still a very durable phone, IP certification, all that stuff, and you're getting all those things that iOS comes with, but it is a little bit less of a phone, I would say, than the iPhone 12 Pro. The real advantage, I think, with the SE2 was the $399 price tag. And if you get this phone for like $499 or $599, like if it was priced that, I wouldn't like that. I don't think it's that great of a phone, but because it's $399, it makes it that much better. And honestly, it should have been $349, the same thing as the Pixel 4a. But the 12 Pro is the better phone in every single dimension. It feels better in the hand, it looks better, has better cameras, better performance, better battery life, better software updates, longer lasting. Like, it's the better phone, but you're paying for that because of the $1,000 price tag. I think with a phone like the iPhone 11 or iPhone 10R, I think even going from an SE2 to those phones is a pretty good upgrade as well. With an iPhone 11, you're getting pretty much the same things as the 12 Pro, just at a cheaper price tag and maybe not as great as performance, but the same performance as the SE2, which is really good still. So I really don't think there's a crazy big difference between these two phones in terms of performance and everything, but definitely when it comes down to the actual longevity of the phones and everything, and the cameras and just overall phone quality, the iPhone 12 Pro is probably the better one when it comes down to it. So in terms of that really pretty much covers it up. Like I said, if you want to pick either of these ones up, links will be down in the description below. That's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.